遡ってほうこれはあなたも知らない新種だガオすごい
ハイパーメディアパソコン富士通 FM タウンズ
富士通
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica. Today, we're taking a look at Tatsujin Oh, or Truxton II for the FM Towns. It's a shooting game made by Toaplan. It was only released in the arcades, as well as on the FM Towns and Towns Marty platform, so this is the only port of the game ever to come home. You'll see that there's a lot of different options in here. Something we haven't showed yet is that the FM Towns has different display modes, so you can actually do different resolutions for the game. We're running it in the high resolution mode that stretches it a tiny bit, but it looks the best on my screen. Before we get too much into the gameplay and the overall history, I am going to ask you guys a favor. If you just go down below and hit the thumbs up and subscribe button, it takes us a ton of work to get each one of these episodes out. We're trying to grow our audience, so do me a huge favor, just go down and hit subscribe. Now that I've asked you to do that, here we're looking at the actual gameplay. The game is comprised of extremely long stages. From start to finish, stage 1, if you don't take a death, it lasts over 8 minutes. If you take a death, you definitely get pushed back a lot, and you lose almost all your weapon power-ups. So as far as gameplay is concerned, this is a classic shmup. Dying comes with a huge penalty, you lose a lot of progress, and you lose a lot of your weapon power-ups. It's almost one of those games where if you die at the wrong place, you'd be better off restarting the game completely than you would trying to progress from where you died last. At least when you die, though, you get a really fun screen transition with a bunch of skulls. I'm going to take my first death right here, and you're going to see that little screen transition. I'm not cutting anything. That's the time it takes for it to load back in, so definitely it's very minimal loading time. As far as the port's concerned, it is near arcade perfect. The only thing it is missing is a little bit of background parallax scrolling compared to the PCB, but it is so close to arcade perfect that you really wouldn't notice unless you're watching a side-by-side video, and anything that's missing really has nothing to do with the gameplay or the enjoyment of the game itself. You can pick this game up for around $500 for the FM Towns version complete. That was the last sale available on eBay. I couldn't find a copy for sale on eBay currently, so it might be something that takes a little bit of time to find. But if you want an original arcade PCB, there is one for sale today in Italy for $750 with free shipping. So probably still best just to emulate this like many of the other popular shooters that are extremely expensive to purchase. That would be my recommendation. But if you want a version to keep for your collection to look at, I might actually buy the PCB for the extra $200 just because it is the original perfect version, and it's not too much more expensive than the disc version for the FM Towns. I would personally spend the extra, but hey, that's completely up to you. One of the most interesting things about Toaplan after they went bankrupt is just how many great shmup companies came out of them. Some of the ex-employees from Toaplan started Cave, and clearly if you've ever played any shooter or shmup games, you're going to know that name. They are the kings of bullet hell, and that's actually my preferred genre of shmup. There's something about the massive patterns and amount of bullets on the screen that for my brain is easier to play than something like Truxton II, where there aren't as many bullets, but they're kind of more coming out at random intervals. As well as Cave, ex-employees of Toaplan also ended up opening up Takumi, as well as Raising, two great shmup makers. But Toaplan also had a ton of great games that they released themselves. Obviously Tatsujin Oh, or Truxton II that we're watching right now. But additionally, you also have Tiger Heli, Zero Wing, and Batsugan, or Batsugan, never quite sure how to pronounce that. But Toaplan made a lot of incredible shooters. Truxton is probably one of the more well-known series, and Truxton 2 is definitely one that's always talked about. One, because it's really good, and two, I think even more because it is so rare. This is obviously the only port of it, so that's why it always gets talked about, and if you look at any list of best FM Towns games, this game is going to be either above directly or below directly Splatterhouse in that list. As far as the game itself is concerned, I definitely highly recommend this one. It is quite challenging just because, as I mentioned earlier, the stages are so incredibly long, but it's extremely satisfying to play. Graphically, it is one of the most impressive games on the FM Towns. You have a ton of stuff going on. You have tons of sprites for all the bullets that are coming out of your ship. You have great scrolling in the backgrounds. You have so much good pixel art that it's almost overwhelming to play. I can't say that I love the type of shmups where you can actually scroll the screen left or right. I kind of like my screen locked. Raiden does that as well, but here it's less bothersome to me, I guess would be the best word. It's not really obscuring too much of what I need to see. It's just something that I don't super care for. You get a lot of great pseudo-transparency effects when you fire off your bomb to avoid some bullets, and that's definitely another great graphical effect. But as far as the gameplay, the graphics, the sound are concerned, you have a great soundtrack, you have excellent graphics, you got a lot of fun gameplay. This is, to me, maybe top 10 2D shooters that aren't in that bullet hell genre. So my recommendation is, even if you emulate this and pay nothing, you have to play this game. If you're even a remote fan of any sort of these type of shooters, you owe it to yourself to play this game. One thing of note to mention, though, is some of the slowdown that you do experience when you're playing the game. A lot of the large explosions or when you set off your own bomb's super weapon do lag the game, and that is something that isn't inherently there in the arcade PCB, so it's a little bit of a bummer. It's not really huge or impactful in the least, but it's just another difference compared to the arcade original. The game is just super difficult to me, and that's why I really enjoy it. It's challenging, yet not unfair. Tatsujin Oh, apparently the Japanese translation for that is Expert King. Definitely one of the harder shmups out there, so I don't know if you need to be an expert to play it, but it's going to take a lot of memorization. The stages are just so incredibly long that there's a lot of time to just die, you have to continue, and you have to start again. So it's definitely a game that's very unforgiving, yet fun enough that you actually want to push through. It's not so unfair that you just quit and say, forget it. But short of that, that's Tatsujin Oh, or Truxton II. I'll let you guys watch the rest of the gameplay. You'll see me fight the boss and lose. This is only just stage 1. There are 4 more stages in the game. But if you, like I said in the beginning of the video, do me a huge favor, go down below and hit the thumbs up and subscribe button, ring the bell so you get notified of our new episodes. We release them every Tuesday, and then we release our On a Technicality series every other Friday. Talks about topics that we just think are interesting from a technical standpoint. Short of that, if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can catch us at Chicago Game Collector. If you have any questions or comments, so leave them below, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one of them. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.